Bloomberg Information Television has been made possible in part on MPT by Mercantile Bank and Trust. Headquartered in Maryland, Mercantile is one of the largest trust companies in the nation. For more than 130 years, Mercantile has been helping families, corporations, and institutions preserve and enhance their wealth.
For Bloomberg Information Television is provided by the Chicago Board Options Exchange, providing better opportunities for informed investors.
With a look at stories making news in the U.S. and around the world, I'm Jean Lee. Here are the headlines. The House votes to recall furloughed government workers and reopen some agencies. The president calls it a step in the right direction. This as budget talks resume. Now the details. The House has voted to send 280,000 furloughed federal employees back to work, at least temporarily. The vote was 401 to 17. The measure would pay all federal workers through January 26th. That includes the 480,000 workers who've been on the job without being paid since December 16th. The Republican measure would not fund functions of many governments. That means some federal workers could wind up doing little when they return to their desks. The Senate is expected to pass the measure. President Clinton gave the measure a lukewarm endorsement, calling it a step in the right direction. He says it is better to have this than not. The president spoke at a Washington church where he had lunch with senior citizens fed by the Meals on Wheels program. The president promised to keep the program funded no matter what. In the meantime, budget talks are continuing at the White House, and once again, President Clinton and congressional leaders will try to reach a plan aimed at balancing the budget in 7 years. The president reiterated again that he will honor his pledge to find a way to balance the budget in so many years. Republicans say unless he does, the government will shut down again. American troops are beginning their pullback from Haiti more than a year after restoring democratically elected President Jean-Bertrand Aristide to power. 66 soldiers headed for U.S. soil after being thanked for a job well done by the general overseeing the Haitian mission. 2,200 troops still remain in Haiti on a UN peacekeeping and police training mission. More soldiers will depart on Wednesday. The last American troops should be home by April. In September of 1994, the U.S. led a multinational force that invaded Haiti as part of a mission to restore the democratically elected government. Aristide and his government were ousted by a military coup in 1991. As many as 4,000 civilians were killed during the country's military reign. Israel and Syria say they've made good progress toward a peace agreement. Negotiators say they've been laying the groundwork for a new round of talks. The State Department characterized the six-day talks held in Maryland as fruitful, constructive, and practical. Earlier, diplomatic sources said Israel and Syria have agreed to continue their talks after Secretary of State Warren Christopher visits the Mideast next week. Well, a change at the top in Japan won't affect U.S.-Japan relations. That's what President Clinton said about the resignation of Prime Minister Tomoichi Murayama. I'm Jean Lee. This is Bloomberg Information Television.
Bloomberg Information Television gives you the information you need. First, it's world and national news. Then we give you top stories in the world of business. Next, we sum up the latest action in the financial markets. After that, we recap world and national news. Then, it's Lifestyles, a look at the lighter side, along with one of our special long and short of it, or streetwise feature reports. And we top off the show with a recap of business and financial markets. Keeping you informed, Bloomberg Information Television.
This is Bloomberg Information Television from our New York newsroom. I'm Charlie Pellet with a look at our top business stories. Shares of software maker Adobe plummet. An industry watcher says retailers can expect big changes this year. And the Clinton administration plans a trade crackdown. Now the details of those and other top business stories. Adobe Systems shareholders are all trying to get out the door at the same time. And that pushed Adobe's stock down by as much as 38% in early trading. Now, investors are selling the computer software company's shares after an extremely disappointing earnings report. After the closing bell Thursday, Adobe reported a fourth quarter profit of 40 cents a share. But as you can see, that is nowhere near the 57 cents a share that investors had been expecting. Now, the company blames the shortfall on its recent acquisition of a rival company and higher than expected costs. Earnings shortfalls have not been greeted kindly on Wall Street. With current stock valuations, the company has to meet earnings expectations in order to justify its share price. Well, after a terrible year last year, most retailers are hoping that 96 will be more generous. But some analysts say the retail sales picture will not get a whole lot better. President of Bernard's Retail Marketing, Kurt Bernard, says he thinks 96 sales will be weak as retailers struggle for every sale. He says he thinks retailers will have to make some major changes in order to cope.
Retailers will have to become much more cost-effective and far more economically operated than now, simply because they will have to reduce their prices. And the only way to do this is to reduce their cost of doing business.
Now, on Thursday, U.S. retailers reported what may be the worst holiday retail sales numbers in 25 years. The Clinton administration is stepping up the enforcement of its various U.S. trade accords. Trade Representative Mickey Cantor unveiled a campaign to vigorously enforce trade pacts with China, Japan, Canada, and other major trading partners. Cantor says the action comes in response to criticism of President Clinton's free trade agreements. Republicans say the accords are costing jobs in the United States. Even though Japan's prime minister and his cabinet say they will resign, Cantor says that will not stop the U.S. from trying to open up Japan's markets. Cantor's opponent in the trade talks, Ryotaro Hashimoto, is expected to take the post of prime minister. Now, Hashimoto repeatedly painted the U.S. as trying to saddle the Japanese with aggressive trade policies. Japanese stocks held steady amid news of Prime Minister Tomoichi Moriyama's resignation. Moriyama didn't make the announcement official until after the close of trading in Tokyo, but reports of the resignation circulated throughout the day. Analysts say the market greeted the news coolly. They say most investors had been hoping Moriyama would step down. The benchmark Nikkei 225 index actually rose during the session. As you can see, they're closing at a 17-month high. Traders appear to be hoping a new prime minister will speed up deregulation in a move to help Japan's economy. There is more trouble for financial advisor Jay Goldinger. 3 companies have already said his advice led to losses totaling more than $45 million. And now 2 New York investors are suing Goldinger and his firm, Capital Insight. The investors claim Goldinger and his firm hid large losses from customers while continuing to collect commissions from trading activities. Well, those are some of our top business stories from Bloomberg Information Television. I'm Charlie Pellet.
It is time once again to update you on the financial markets. I'm David Haffenreffer. Well, U.S. stocks rebounded in the last session to close out the day mixed after the House of Representatives voted to recall furloughed federal workers and reopen some government offices. Let's go right to the numbers now as we access the Bloomberg Terminal's live financial database to bring us up to speed with the closing numbers. The Dow Jones Industrial Average finishing out the day up a little more than 7.5 points to close at 5181.43 for the week. The Dow gained about 85 points. The S&P 500, meantime, was down about a point at 616.71, and the NASDAQ Composite gaining almost 4 points to close out the day and the week at 1,033.47. Declining issues did beat out advancing ones in the session, but only by a 15-stock margin. Volume on the big board at about 433 million shares. Now, in the Treasury markets, U.S. bonds rounded out the session a bit lower after a bit of a roller coaster ride of a session. That roller coaster powered by some concern over a lack of progress in the budget talks in Washington. At last check, the benchmark 30-year bond, as you can see in this graph, was down for 30 seconds with a yield at 6.04%. Let's move along now to the currency markets, where the dollar was little changed in the day, fluctuating throughout the entire session in response to the latest twists in the U.S. budget negotiations. At last check, the dollar was trading, as you can see here, up just about 0.2 of a yen at 105.35 Japanese yen. And against the German mark, the dollar was trading, as you can see here, down just fractionally at 1.439 German marks. Let's take a look now at the commodities markets, where spot gold was up $2.30 at $396.30 an ounce. Silver also higher in the session, up 15 cents at $5.53 an ounce, and platinum up $7.70 at $419.80 an ounce. And crude oil finally up 35 cents to settle in New York at $20.26 a barrel. Let's take a look at some of the stocks that are making news today in the session. Chemical banking corporations plan to acquire Chase Manhattan Corporation for about $10 billion was approved in the session by the Federal Reserve, paving the way now for the creation of the largest U.S. commercial bank. Let's take a look at how those stocks performed in the session. However, the news did come out after the closing bell. CHL is the ticker symbol for Chemical Bank. As you can see in this graph, the stock finished out the day down a quarter point at $56 a share, and Chase Manhattan shares, as you can see in this graph, rounded out the session down a quarter point at 58 1/8. Now, two of the stocks you will want to actually, as I mentioned, the U.S. Federal Reserve did announce after the close that it has approved the bank's $10 billion merger. Now, Colgate-Palmolive, on the other hand, CL, the ticker symbol, finishing out the day down 1 3/8 at 71.5. The consumer products company was cut to hold today over at Prudential Securities. Also, Duracell had an active session as well. As you can see in this graph, the stock fell 3 7/8 to close at 47 7/8. The company says its fiscal second quarter earnings are probably going to fall below analyst expectations because of weak international demand and weak holiday sales. And finally, shares of DuPont up just a bit in the session, up a quarter point to close at $73 a share. The company says it will be taking two, not one, but two charges in the fourth quarter to help pay for a consumer product settlement and a change in accounting rules. Let's take a look now at the three major indices, how they finished out the session. The Dow Jones Industrial Average up more than 7.5 points to close at 5181.43. That's a look at the markets.
This is Bloomberg Information Television. I'm Denise Pellegrini with a look at stories making headlines in the U.S. and around the world. Japan's prime minister resigns. Boris Yeltsin's longest-serving minister also quits, and in Bosnia, NATO troops fire their first shots. Now, the details. A change at the top in Japan won't affect U.S.-Japan relations. That's what the White House said about the resignation of Prime Minister Tomoichi Murayama. The Prime Minister announced he's stepping down after just 18 months in office. In the process, he'll also dissolve his cabinet. A new Prime Minister could be elected as early as next Thursday. Murayama wasn't considered a strong candidate in the next election due to his country's economic problems and recent banking scandals. Trade Minister Ryutaro Hashimoto, known for his strong stance against the U.S. in trade talks, is considered a likely successor. That change is not expected to have an effect on President Clinton's trip to Japan in April. Russian Foreign Minister Andrei Kozyrev has also resigned. He quit in order to serve in Parliament. Kozyrev was Russian President Boris Yeltsin's longest-serving minister. Communists and nationalists believe he was too pro-Western, and he was often a target of their criticism. The first NATO casualty from gunfire has been reported. A 20-year-old Italian soldier was shot in the arm by an unidentified gunman believed to be a Serb. That soldier wasn't seriously wounded. Other members of the Peace Implementation Force returned fire in self-defense, but couldn't report hitting anyone. The attack came just before dawn in a suburb of Sarajevo. While NATO forces try to keep the peace in Bosnia, other groups are trying to rebuild the war-torn region. One Washington-based organization is trying to raise $500 million for that effort. Bloomberg's Washington correspondent John Wardock now with more on that.
We've all seen the pictures. Roads knocked out, buildings destroyed, the direct residue of a bitter war.
In wake of all this, the World Bank has tried to help. Officials here have organized an economic relief effort, an effort they hope will funnel millions of dollars to the former Yugoslav republic.
Specifically, the World Bank has gotten some 50 countries and 27 organizations to donate $500 million over the next few months. The money will go for all sorts of needs, from roads and bridges to housing and schools.
We estimate that a minimum of 59 bridges have to be rebuilt in order to get the transportation system going. The railroads are very, very severely damaged. To get the primary road network up and running, we estimate that you're going to have very extensive repairs to about 500 miles of roads.
The money will also go for reviving agriculture, for repairing water and sewer mains, for replacing phone lines.
It's interesting you mentioned telecommunications, because this is an area where we very much feel that the private sector can come in and help. And one of the things that the Bosnian government officials that I've talked to and that we've been dealing with at the bank are very keen to do is to try to stimulate private sector involvement as well. This should not all be assistance from the international community.
Nevertheless, the World Bank will try to lead that international community, just as it did 50 years ago during its original mission, rebuilding Europe after World War II. I'm John Rock, Washington.
The UN Security Council is keeping the 5-year-old economic embargo against Iraq intact. The continuation of that embargo comes after UN weapons inspectors said Iraq misled them and withheld information from them about its missiles and biological weapons. The weapons inspectors say there's no evidence Iraq destroyed its weapons. This is Bloomberg Information Television. I'm Denise Pellegrini.
Hi, I'm Maureen Langan with Lifestyles. I have to tell you, the green slab of clay is back, so too is his orange friend. Joining me today is Gumby. Welcome, Gumby. Gumby doesn't talk, so because Gumby doesn't talk, I invited his creator, Art Clokey, along with partner and wife, Gloria, to join us today. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Now,
It's a pleasure.
Gumby just made his movie debut, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay, it's called Gumby the Movie.
Right.
Very creative title. Now, we have a clip from it. Why don't we go to that first, and we'll talk a little about it.
Yes. Okay.
Sir Galahad, I think you are right. The lad does need a sword.
Hey, green one up there. Here, catch this.
Thanks, Sir Knight.
Sir Galahad, the green lad didn't need a sword. He needed wings.
I heard that remark, sir. You see, I've just begun to fight.
Oh, you've just begun to fight. Go, Gumby, go. Now, I want to ask you guys, why did it take so long to make a Gumby movie? Gumby's been around, you created him over 40 years ago, Art, right?
That's right. Well, it took so long because there was nobody around to finance it. We got a contract to do the new series in 1986, and we moved to Sausalito and did the movie, accumulated a crew of about 55 people, and we used the same crew after we finished the series in 1988. We used the crew to do the movie. And
well, in terms of art direction, I wanted to ask you, Gloria, because you were the art director on this. None of this is computer animation, right?
No, all clay. Well, the figures are clay, and then the props are from foam core and other materials, but there was no computer. We did have a computer that we used in some of the shots, in the moving shots and so forth.
So Gumby's very true to life to how you created him 40 years ago.
Yeah.
He's authentic.
What's with the bump on his head, Art?
That's to give him a kind of an identification, set him aside from all the other slabs of clay. It makes a good trademark. It came from my father, whose picture I saw as a little boy, and was fascinated by the fact that my father seemed to have a bump on his head. It was a big cowlick. I used to have it before I lost it.
You know, father wasn't
colic
green,
is?
right?
Big
Yeah,
hair.
colic, yeah. The big hair piece that flips up. So you were modeled after Art's father. How do you like that, Gumby? He's into that. So tomorrow, though, we're going to talk more about Gumby. We'll be talking about the movie, and we're going to find out about Gumby's sexual orientation, because some believe he may be androgynous, but we're going to say, au contraire, mon frère, and find out the truth.
All he had was just platonic friends.
So we're going to learn more.
Pals.
All right, thanks. I'm Maureen Langan. This is Lifestyles.
Move to digital television was never in doubt. In a digital world, viewers will enjoy movie-quality images, more channels, and enhanced services such as newspapers sent to your TV. But analysts warn that consumers in the TV industry need 15 years to upgrade from our current TV system, called the analog spectrum, to the newer digital one. Consumers are slow to adopt advanced technologies, a moot point as the industry has yet to offer a digital TV to the marketplace. Nevertheless, the digital world may soon be here. A lawyer with the Consumer Federation of America says President Clinton wants to auction off the current analog spectrum ahead of schedule.
President Clinton and others in Congress are certainly proposing this auction in an effort to raise hopefully tens of billions of dollars.
President Clinton's plan is only a proposal, one competing with other versions from Congress and the FCC. These proposals are even less clear than the president's plan, and that said, consumer advocates warn an enforced switch to digital would be costly.
Everybody's TVs and VCRs are no longer going to be able to receive the signal. So you're going to need either a little box, or you're going to have to buy a new TV and a VCR at obviously considerable expense.
But the Clinton administration's top TV expert says the fears are unfounded.
I think that the marketplace will be very competitive. So this is not a case where you should hold off buying a television for 10 years.
Predictions of what tomorrow's TV world will look like are still fuzzy, but for consumers, the message is crystal clear. Stay tuned. I'm Diane Thompson.
Secretary Christopher will follow up on the discussions that the President and King Hussein have had.
20 at 7 8, U.S. turns in the book. Okay, thank you. 11, Neil Armstrong.
OJ, are you a suspect?
Hello, my name is Forrest Gump. We began a relationship almost 3.5 years ago.
Situations of misery.
That's one small step for man, giant leap for mankind. And is that a good market? 5 8, 7 8, 25.
Their support for his return until now.
LXC 645.
Gene Lee.
I'm Tom Wolf.
Catherine Alford.
David Haffenreffer.
This is Bloomberg Information Television. I'm Jackie Jowers. Coming up, some of the stories making news in the world of business. But first, let's take a look at how the financial markets closed out the first week of 1996. Stocks closed mixed. The market pared its losses after the House of Representatives voted to bring back furloughed federal workers and reopen government offices. The Dow rose 7.5 points to 51.81. The blue chip average traded lower most of the session. Losers edged gainers by a narrow margin. Volume totaled 433 million shares. In the broader market, looking at the S&P 500 index, it slipped a point, while the NASDAQ Composite Index climbed to nearly 3 3/4 points. Unexpectedly weak earnings from Adobe Systems and Duracell International sparked concern earnings growth is slowing. The budget battle in Washington remains a thorn in the Treasury market side. Note and bond prices dipped as there appears to be no signs of an immediate resolution to budget talks between President Clinton and congressional negotiators. Traders were somewhat encouraged by the House vote, but still want a credible deficit reduction agreement. In late trading, the benchmark 30-year bond was down 1/8 of a point to yield 6.04%. On the foreign exchange, the dollar was little changed, fluctuating throughout the day in response to the latest twist in U.S. budget negotiations. Like the stock and bond markets, the dollar recovered on news of the House vote. Earlier, it slipped amid pessimism. The Clinton administration and Congress will agree to a budget plan anytime soon. Another business news, two of the country's largest steel makers are boosting prices. Bethlehem Steel and National Steel are raising prices on their sheet steel by 3%. The move was pretty much expected. Some of the other major steel manufacturers raised their prices earlier this week. Steel orders have been dropping in the last 3 quarters of 1995, but demand is beginning to surge once again, so the higher prices could lead to higher profits for the industry as a whole. The future of Enron's huge India power plant could be decided soon. An Indian state government is expected to announce whether or not it will approve the project on Saturday. The government canceled the $2.8 billion contract back in August over cost concerns, but it agreed to rethink its decision soon after. This will be the largest foreign business project in Indian history if it goes forward. Analysts say a canceled contract will create a chilling effect for businesses who want to invest in India in the future. How's this for an unusual piece of cross-promotion? CBS is airing a TV movie based on Ivana Trump's book, For Love Alone, this weekend. Ivana makes a cameo appearance in the film, and the Home Shopping Network says she'll be decked up in an outfit that you can buy from the House of Ivana fashion line.
When news affects your money, you want to know how and why. I'm Mark Crumpton. Every morning, Bloomberg Business News brings you the latest information to get your day started. Now, Bloomberg Business News has expanded and is more comprehensive than ever. For the news that affects your money, there's only one sure investment, Bloomberg Business News.
Funding for Bloomberg Information Television is provided by the Chicago Board Options Exchange, providing better opportunities for informed investors.
Bank and Trust. Headquartered in Maryland, Mercantile is one of the largest trust companies in the nation. For more than 130 years, Mercantile has been helping families, corporations, and institutions preserve and enhance their wealth.
Some people hustle pool, some people hustle cars. But have you ever heard about the man who hustles stars? Jack Horkeismer, star hustler, director of the Miami Space Transit Planetarium.
Our episode for this week, Monday, January 1st through Sunday, January 7th, is Ring in the New Year with a Cosmic Week of Wonders.
And now here to tell you all about tonight's sky and the biggest show of all, the universe, your star hustler, Jack Horkeismer.
Greetings, greetings, fellow Stargazers, and man, what a way to start the new year. Because this first week of 1996 is just loaded with cosmic goodies. Let me show you. Okay, we're outside early this week, Tuesday, January 2nd, facing southwest at dusk, just after the sun is set. And smack dab in front of us is a brilliant light, our old Christmas and now our New Year star, the planet Venus. And up and to its left, a not quite as bright, but beautiful planet, the ringed planet Saturn, which is getting ready to put on a sky show over the next 4 weeks with the planet Venus, and which will perform its own rare and famous disappearing ring act just 5 weeks from now. And in case you haven't noticed, if you have a clear flat horizon, well, this week you will see the elusive first planet out from the sun, the planet Mercury, down into Venus' right, hovering just a few degrees above the horizon. In fact, on Tuesday of this week, the 2nd, Mercury is at its greatest eastern elongation, which simply means that it is highest above the horizon this week for this Mercury go-round. So look for it now, because towards the end of this week, it will be dropping closer and closer to the horizon, and by the end of next week, it will be gone. And remember that when you're looking at Mercury, you are seeing a tiny 3,000-mile wide world, which is 91 million miles away from us this week. Whereas when you look at Venus, you are looking at an 8,000-mile wide planet, 122 million miles away from us this week, compared to Saturn, which is 75,000 miles wide and 921 million miles away. Don't miss these 3 planets lined up in a row. But if you prefer cosmic oddities, how about this Earth perihelion stuff on Thursday the 4th? Because this week on Thursday, the Earth will be at perihelion. Peri meaning close and helion meaning sun, which simply means that this week the Earth is closer to the sun than it will be for the entire year. 3 million miles closer than it will be this upcoming July 5th. But hold on, because even though we're closest to the sun Thursday the 4th, the very next day we play flip-flop, because at 6:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Friday the 5th, we will experience the farthest full moon from Earth, and thus the smallest full moon for the entire year. Indeed, it will be 31,000 miles farther from our Earth than the closest full moon, which will occur on Tuesday, July 30th. And believe me, you'll be able to see the difference. So, there you have it for the first week of January '96. 3 planets in a row, with Mercury at its highest above the horizon this week only. Plus our Earth closest to the sun for the entire year, and the farthest full moon of the entire year. Wow, what a great way to start the year, if you just remember to keep looking up. It's here, hot off the video machines, the 3rd Star Hustler collection of strange facts and weird wonders of the night sky. Order Star Hustler's Space Oddities now. Call 1-800-533-8321.
Star Hustler is produced in cooperation with the Miami Museum of Science and Space Transit Planetarium and is made possible in part by the William J. and Tina Rosenberg Foundation, Miami, Florida, USA, where the stars come out at night to play.